guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another review show. This time we're reviewing the European games and the league games over the weekend. That's 5 games overall. We'll start off with Derry City at home to Riga, and obviously finish Derry City 0, Riga FC 2 at the Brandywell. Goals in each half from Riga were enough to win the game. And JP, I suppose from a Derry standpoint, you would have seen that as a very disappointing result, wouldn't you, going into the game? And it makes it very, very difficult, does it, going to Latvia, we'll say now, for the second leg?
Probably disappointed, yes, but whenever you look at their European results over the last few years, they got to the playoff round last year, the same competition. Celtic already beat them a few years ago in the Champions League, so in reality, it's probably expected, to be honest with you. But yeah, disappointed that it's ties probably beyond us going into the second leg. But if you get the first goal out there, who knows? Done well for 41, 42 minutes. And then they put a ball down the outside of Shane McElhinney, and it looked like it was going to run out of play, and the guy managed to keep it in, and Ramos hit it on the ground and it found its way in the back of net. And at that point, it was probably the first time they really got in behind us. Well, they had a couple of chances they didn't really take, but it's the first time that they cut us open. And then in the second half there, he started brightly. Started to build a bit of momentum, a few crosses in the box. Thompson had a volley which was blocked. I think McGonigal had a shot as well. There was appeals for a penalty, but I don't think it was. Then Matty Smith does what he does, wins a throw-in, gets involved in an altercation. And at that point, Derry was starting to put pressure on Riga. And Riga were you could see that some of their players they weren't up for the fight that Derry was kind of giving them. And then they created a different kind of fight that Matty Smith got sucked into. And I know there's people circulating images of the other guy grabbing Matty Smith by the face, but the difference is Matty Smith actually slapped him, and that's the difference. Like, I know people said to me, "Hand the fist is red card." It's not necessarily. It's what you do when you put your hand on the fist. If you use force, Matty Smith slapped the guy. There's no way you can defend it. And anybody trying to defend it then needs to read the rule book, because it's totally out of order. 2 minutes later, they score, and it's game over for that particular game. It's just about trying to keep the score down, and right in the deep end, they stoppage time. They've hit the bar and it's come down, and the ball has bounced over the guy's head, and it quite easily could have been 3-0, and at 3-0, I think it's game over. At 2-0, I think you've a half a chance if you can go out there and get the first goal early on and put them under a bit of pressure. But really disappointing, because I thought the players were nervous. They didn't play the best they could play, in my opinion. But you have to give credit to Riga. They obviously watched Derry's threats and they nullified them, and they got Derry's weaknesses, which was they exposed Shane McElhinney, and they done it for the 2 goals. They got the 2 goals from it, and I'm disappointed because that was a formation that got us into a bad run. Went to Daily Mount, we went back to back 3 stroke back 5 with the 2 wing backs. Put in a really good performance, got a 3-2 win. And Rory, for some reason, decided to go back to back 4. Only he and his coaching staff will know that, but I don't know. Maybe he sees the game different than the rest of us, but can't question him, because to this point, in his managerial career, he's got most calls right, and we're still sitting third in the table. And I think the most important thing this season was to make sure we qualify for Europe next year, and maybe get a better run at it. I don't think we were built for our European run this year, but look, it's not completely over, but it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, Luke, I mean, to be fair, coming into the game, unfortunately, you'd have to say, despite the fact that they won 2 games around the league, they weren't coming into it in the best of form, Derry, really, were they? I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they had the early season form against Riga, how it would go. So they're not playing with the confidence and the swagger they were playing earlier on in the season, are they, in reality? So that made it a more difficult fixture, to be fair.
Yeah, you're right. And JP said there that they look nervous, and maybe as you said, if they were going into the game off the run of form earlier on the season, they wouldn't have been so nervous. And look, it's understandable to have nerves. Like, what I mean, there's a lot of these lads first time playing in Europe, you know what I mean? And it's understandable. But, even the first goal was quite avoidable. I think Shane McElhenney does really poor. It's if you're a centre half, it's one place you don't want to be getting caught is in behind, and he was caught in behind, dragged out of his position, and the goal comes from a mistake that from him really, like, and he'll be disappointed with that because Shane is so experienced. And to be honest with you, I think Shane has been decent for Derry this season. I think he might have dropped off the last few weeks, but like up until now he's been excellent, and for him, like, he was made the move to Derry, and he's been in the team most this season. So like for him, he would have been delighted with that. But it's just it's a bad mistake, and then obviously Matty Smith it's just madness what he does, like, do you know what I mean? And you can't really defend him because it's a stupid decision, you know what I mean? You're 1-0 in the game and you're lashing out the way you did. Like, it just shows maybe a lack of experience, you know what I mean, on his behalf. So he'll be disappointed with himself, you know what I mean, probably let himself down. Not just that, I think he's let the club down. So they obviously then conceded another goal, and JP said that they were unlucky then not to score again. And so look, Derry will be, they won't be, obviously they'll be disappointed that they lost the game and that, but they'll be still quite content that they're still in the tie. So if you go over there, get a goal early next week, then it's anyone's game then. So look forward to seeing how they do over there. Still, it's going to be a big ask for them to turn it around though.
I think the killer is the fact that Smith getting sent off. Who's to say that they'll go on and get an equaliser maybe, or lose 1-0? We don't know, but that's the fact. I think JP probably wants to jump in there, but
you were getting a feeling that there was an equaliser coming. Now, I spoke about this yesterday morning, and I'm not saying, and the person I was chatting with was maybe implying that I was implying that we were going to go on and win the game. I wasn't. I felt that there was a bit of momentum building from Derry's point of view, that they could maybe get Riga on the back foot and just keep pushing and maybe get a half chance, and the ball dropped them in the box or something just before the red card.
It's hard to do that, JP, with 20 minutes to go with 10 men, isn't it?
Just it is, especially in Europe. You have to try and keep the score down. Like just before the red card, there was a chance where Derry, the referee played a great advantage and allowed Derry to attack, and Derry attacked the numbers. The only thing let them down was when they got it 1v1, it was Joe Thompson up against the centre back. If that had been McGonigal or Matty Smith, he beats him, and I'm not taking on away from Joe, but he's just not that type of a midfielder, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And just feel wrong person, wrong time. Maybe if it was McGonigal 1v1 and Thompson in the middle, rather than Thompson 1v1 and McGonigal in the middle, it may have been a different story. But the momentum was building absolutely from a Derry point of view. And then after the red card, that team just made it a prestation, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll move on to Sligo Rovers, and at least they had a better result. This was expected, in my opinion. Bala 1, Sligo Rovers 2. They got an early scare. Mendes scoring after 6, Keane scoring after 28, and then Matt at 49. But I just seen the highlights of this, and the highlights demonstrated that Sligo could have won this, Luke, far more comfortably than the scoreline suggested. That said, you'd imagine 2-1 first leg over there at home at the showgrounds. They should be good enough to finish the job, because they missed a lot of chances in this game as well, didn't they? Despite the fact they won the game.
Yeah, they hit the post as well. I think Max Mata hit the post. Like, obviously Bala take an early lead, which is probably what they weren't expecting. And it's an early lead, first 5 minutes, and it's a great goal actually. It's a great ball in, and it's a great finish from the Bala Town player. So look, Sligo would have been probably disappointed to have conceded early on, and it's by the time you're settled, you're 1-0 down, and that's disappointing. But I think they deserve to win the game because they had so many chances as well after that. Keena had a few chances, Max Mata had a few chances, and then Keena gets a brilliant goal. Like, that's a brilliant goal. It's a lovely lob over the keeper, and then I think it's Max Mata then gets the other one, if I'm right in saying, which was a great finish as well. So great for them, you know what I mean? Great number of them travelled over as well. Looked like, obviously it's not a very far trip for them, so, you know, it was great for them to get so many fans over there, and, you know, it's a great result for them, and like you'd like to think now, coming to the showground, you know, they're in the lead, like you think they'll go on now and maybe score a few more now on next week, so we'll see how that goes. But no, it's a great result for them, and, you know, it'll give them confidence now going into this next game, and hopefully for them further on in the competition. But no, they'll just be looking ahead now to next Thursday, and, you know, finishing the job there, and seeing where it takes them. So yeah, brilliant result for them, and a great performance as well, and could have been a lot more goals for Sligo in this game.
Yeah, JP, you'd imagine Sligo, the way they can hit on the counter and that, and you saw evidence of that in this game as well. It could be open enough at the showgrounds in the second leg, but this result, it does set them up nicely, in fairness, doesn't it?
Yeah, like it's not often a League of Ireland team will get a draw in Europe and be favourites for that, and this is one of the very few occasions, and maybe the first 10 minutes, maybe that caught Sligo by surprise, like, but the main thing was that they managed to bounce back and get themselves back on half time in level terms, and then got the second goal in the second half, and as you say, it could have been quite a few more. They'll be disappointed that maybe they didn't get at least one more. They made, but going into the game at the showgrounds, you have to fancy them, like, especially at home, they're going to have partisan crowd there. They probably had a partisan crowd, and
they looked a different level, to be fair, to Bala Town. I think that's the point as well.
I think whenever you compare the League of Wales and the League of Ireland, I think there is that level and difference. And I know they're in their pre-season and we're in mid-season, but I think if you ran the two seasons side by side, I still think that golf and class would still be there. Like
for nearly as long as I'm watching, JP, you know what I mean, for years and years, the League of Ireland clubs do have an upper hand on the Welsh clubs.
Like, I'm not sure how often League of Ireland teams have drawn League of Wales teams, but I know the last time was with Derry against Aberystwyth, and it finished 9-0 over 2 legs. And I remember, and I'm sorry,
Dundalk won easy last year, didn't they?
Yeah, against Newton as well. And I remember a comment from the Aberystwyth manager back in 2014 or whenever it was. Derry beat them 4-0. They had a man sent off early, and he turned around and he says, 11v11, they're no better than us. And then we went out in the second leg, 11v11, beat them 5-0. So it's I think that the golfing class has always been there. I think it always will be there. I think whenever you look at the League of Wales, the only ground that the other teams can use in that division is TNS's ground, because I think that's where the game is played. I think that's the only ground that at that level of European football can be used, which it says a lot about the league and the infrastructure. And we can say we criticize our own league, but at least when our clubs qualify for Europe, they can play at least 1 or 2 rounds in Europe at their own ground before having to move on. But Sligo be absolutely delighted with that result, and they be going now on Thursday night to finish off the job and set up a nice glamour tie against Motherwell in the next round.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, we'll move on to the league now, and on Thursday as well, UCD 1, Bohemians 3. Lonergan after 31, it was actually a brilliant strike from Tommy Lonergan, to be fair. Flores 36, Burt on 45, and Devoy on 90 minutes. Initially, I thought actually Levinson got the goal, but apparently Burt got the goal. It's hard to see. I was actually at the game in Belfield, and it was roasting. It was like 21, 22 degrees, and the sun was hitting right in the stand. So it's very difficult to see a lot of things in the game. But luckily, I seen Lonergan's goal, even though the sun was kind of right in front of you. But brilliant strike. Gave Bowes a fright, and they could feel for about 5 or 6 minutes or whatever up to Flores scored. The Bowes fans were getting very restless, very restless. So if it went 1-0 at half time, you'd never know. But they did get the 2 goals before half time. Flores' strike was a bit lucky. I'm not sure if it took a deflection or not, but obviously the keeper I think should do better. And Burt then scores right in half time, which sets them up. Second half wasn't great at all from either team. It was very poor, minimal chances, not much on, and Devoy eventually scores a penalty on 90. Funnily enough, Junior went down, he went down about a minute or two before that, and it kind of looked more of a penalty. But again, you know what I mean? I'd no benefit of a replay, so it's hard to tell. But he felt like a penalty was coming. And in the end, Bows went 3-1, but not a good performance by Bows. I know it sounds strange, and they'll be happy with that, to say they didn't play well and they won. But you're looking at UCD and you're kind of going, would they even do well in the first division this year? I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. And I know, again, they're 3 points behind Harps. I know Harps have their problems, but I just don't think they have the quality there, UCD. And I suppose, Luke, disappointing enough for them after taking the lead as well. Like, you know, they've done that a couple of times this season, some games, and they only held on for, 5 minutes?
Yeah. Well, they say you're most vulnerable after scoring, you know what I mean? And
UCD definitely are.
Yeah. Well, it just proves it, you know what I mean? And you know, they don't really have players there that is, you know, the senior players that, you know, when you concede, you know, when you score, that you could just, you know, let's relax now for a sec. Because the first thing I noticed when Drogheda scored last night was Gary Deegan was straight at Dean Williams and he was telling them, relax, just relax. And I could see him to the rest of the lads, relax. See, UCD don't have that, you know what I mean? I'd say UCD, you know, they scored and they probably smelled blood then, you know what I mean? That, you know, we've got a chance here. But then, you know, they get hit with a sucker punch. It's 1-1. And then obviously just before half-time, they probably wanted to be going in at half-time, you know, with a draw. It's still like in the game 1-1. And that, obviously they're still in the game at 2-1. But it was just made it a bit more difficult for them coming to the second half. So, yeah, it just shows the lack of senior players on that side. Obviously, like, there's nothing they can do about that, you know what I mean?
And even
it is very disappointing for them to be.
Their captain, Sam Todd, even ended up
exactly
sent off as well for a second bookable offence. So that doesn't help, you know, either their situation.
No.
I know he's a young player as well, but he's got more experience than the other players because he played a Finn Harps.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
It's very difficult for them, and you don't like to criticise them because it's a difficult job as well. No. They overachieved completely by getting into the division. They've lost two players. Andy Myler, like, he's like, what? How do you judge Andy? In fairness, like, you know what I mean? You can't.
No, you don't. Because as well, like, obviously you mentioned they lost 2 key players, like Colin Whelan and Liam Kerrigan. We've said it so many times in the show, like they're such big losses, and especially in a team that, like, they needed them 2 players. You know what I mean? Like, over the whole season, really, because like going forward, like, I know your man Dylan Duffy's looked very good, but they were probably their only 2 real sparks of you know, something like in a game that there might not be a lot in. Like, these are the 2 players that will produce a bit of magic, you know what I mean? I know they don't have these lads, so it's very difficult for them. And, you know, even defensively, and the keeper was very poor, you said, for one of the goals as well. So, look, it's just not great for them. But for Bows, and they'll be happy they got the 3 points. They got their European friendly there, today as well. So they'll be delighted with everything. But look, to be honest with you, it's a good win for them. You know what I mean? They needed that, I think. So even you said they didn't play great. So, you know, they'll be happy that they just got the win, and, you know, they're the sort of teams you expect them to beat. So, look, it's a good win for them, and I'm sure they'll be wanting to look further up the table now than where they are, you know?
Yeah, JP, they actually had a debutant. Josh Kerr played centre-back for Bows as well. He looked decent, but to be fair, it was probably the easiest debut he could have. So very difficult to judge until he actually plays against, let's be honest, a half-decent side. But he looked okay in the game. He's fairly comfortable. So it'll be interesting to see going forward how he does. But even though, as I said, Bows weren't that great in the game, JP, I suppose they did what they had to do, and they just needed to get the 3 points. 6 points now behind 4 plates, actually. So they're still technically in the running, aren't they?
Yeah. Josh, going back to Josh Kerr there, he made his Derry City debut against UCD as well. Like, and he was very good. I thought he was very good in the time he was on loan from Brighton. So that's I think that's going to be a good signing for Bows in the long run. Just looking at the table, with Sligo being in European football, they've moved within 3 points of them. They keep within 6 points of St. Pat's. They had to take advantage of them 2 teams not playing this week, and they've done that. And it looked like for after half an hour that they weren't going to do that. And the last time they were in the UCD Bowl, they were played off the park, and they only got a point. And it was described as a ticket and run point. And but fair play to them. They got back in the game right away, and from that point forward, they went on. They won the game, and I don't know whether it was at 2-1, were they hanging on or were they comfortable or whatever? But the penalty
No,
just
they weren't hanging on, to be honest with you, but they weren't comfortable either. It was a strange one. It was just one of those halves in the second half where it was just a poor game of football with nothing really happening.
Yeah.
And the penalty just made the points sift for them, and it's a result that both need it. Like, if they want to be getting back in the Europe again next year, they narrowly missed out through the league and then through the cup final as well for this season, and they want to just keep on the coattails of Sligo and St. Pat's, and that's what they've done. And for UCD, I think it's just about playing out the season for them and maybe hoping they catch Finn Harps and maybe make it interesting and get their playoff or whatever. But you said there about how do you judge Andy Myler, and Luke was right. You can't, especially on this season. I think you could maybe judge them on last season. They get this group of players promoted was absolutely an incredible achievement. Now, I know they came up in the final against a Waterford team that were disjointed because of what happened in the days running up there, but there was nothing they could do about that. But the fact that they I think they finished 5th or something, didn't they, in the league, and or 4th, and they beat.
I can't remember. Yeah,
they had to beat one of the either whoever finished 2nd or 3rd. They had to beat one of them, and they get the maybe did they have to beat 2 of them or whatever. They get the point to play Waterford,
2 of them,
and they've done that. So I think you judge them on last season, but with the structure that they have, when they do get promoted, they can't bring in experienced players. They make them competitive because of the structure that they have, and I can't see them changing it, and I can't see players wanting to go there without because there's no money to pay them, and if the likes of, say, Gary Deacons at Drogheda, he's probably got his education behind him. So UCD, and no disrespect to Gary, but he probably knows if anybody listens to it, they probably know what I'm trying to say. They've nothing to offer them kind of players. So, but I don't know how they managed to hold on to Tony McDonald, because I think he was a one club man at UCD, wasn't he? All them years ago, like so. I don't think UCD will ever have a stalwart like that again. But and then they lost your captain. They 2 yellow cards. It's going to compound their roles over the next couple of weeks, and I think this game went the exact way we expected it.
Yeah, so on Friday finished Shelbourne 3, Finn Harps 1 at Falcon Park. Finally, Shelbourne achieved something they hadn't achieved all season. That was beating Finn Harps. So it's a new low for Finn Harps, really, because the 2 wins all season, they beat Shelbourne. But Gav Malloy with 2 goals and Jack Moylan with 1. Eaton Boyle equalised, 2 set pieces, actually, for the first 2 goals. Finn Harps, again, surprisingly, very poor marking from a set piece. We've seen that a few times this season, where Malloy actually wins a complete free header from a corner kick to put them in front. And I know Boyle scores a few minutes later from a set piece as well, but he wasn't quite as free. But it looked like Shelbourne were the better side in this match. And from listening to Shelbourne fans, they played really, really well. I reckon it was one of their best performances of the season, Luke. And like, they're only 1 point behind Bows and 7 points behind Pats with a game in hand. You never know with a bit of momentum. And they're one of those teams that you think could improve the most as the season goes on, potentially.
Yeah, possibly, and look, it's a good win for them. You know what I mean? Obviously, you mentioned like the 2 wins that Finn Harps have all season comes against Shells, and obviously, like, you know, if they probably had a bit of a hoodoo over them going into this game, so for them to overcome that really is good for Shells as a group, because I'm sure they worked, like I was just saying during the week, I'd say this is probably the game they've prepared most for all season. You know what I mean? Going into this one, because they've lost twice to them. You know what I mean? They did not want to make a 3, and obviously they took an early lead, and it was a great header, actually, to be fair, by the young lad Malloy. And then obviously Eaton Boyle gets a header, and I think Shells will be disappointed with the defending for that set piece. It's a very avoidable goal, I think. Like it's not the best cross in the world. It's a bit of a weird one, you know what I mean? But I have to give the credit to Boyle as well. It's a great header, you know what I mean, into the bottom corner. So they're back in the game, and Barry McNamee has a good chance as well. I think Brendan Clark makes a decent save. But look, you know what I mean, there is problems at Finn Harps at the minute, and the players it's just disappointing for them, because the goal that they concede it's a great goal. You know what I mean? The second one, Gav Malloy, is it's a great goal, and then obviously the third one is a good finish as well by Moylan. But look, it's disappointing for Finn Harps, because it's just it's just not good enough for them, you know what I mean? And their fans are starting to become uneased about it as well, you know what I mean? I've seen a lot of things today as well. Not a lot. I've seen a few things on Twitter today about the likes of Ollie out and all this. You know, it's not looking great for them at the minute. Look, I don't agree with the Ollie out. You know what I mean? Whoever they get in is going to have a tough job, to be honest. Because we've said like going into the season that like the players they've lost, you know, going into the season is not great. You know what I mean? Because like, even last season, like that was probably one of the best Finn Harps squads in the past few years. You know what I mean? And the likes of Mark Coyle, Foley, Tunde Olabi. Obviously, they lose Webster at the start of the season for the rest of the season, which is obviously a loss for them. But you know, look, I think it says a lot when you know they make new signings and they're straight in the starting 11. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know what I mean, and you'd have to wonder maybe about the signings you have to make, and like who are these lads? So, look, we'll see over the next few weeks how these new signings adapt and that, but. You know, obviously with Drogheda winning there last night as well, it's not great for them because it's a big gap between them and Drogheda at the minute. So it's looking like maybe that it's going to be playoffs or possibly worse. But we'll see over the next few weeks how that plays out. But it's a great win for Shells who needed that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, JP Shelbourne have some very exciting young players really emerging. We've seen Shane Farrell this season get better and better, but players like Hakiki, Malloy has come into the fray now, and obviously Jack Boylan. They kind of have a few players that are capable of creating opportunities, let's say, and a little bit of individual quality in that team as well. So from their point of view, that's good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure Damien Duff is pleased as well with how the young lads are integrating into the squad. Like he's got a good mix of youth and experience in that team, and it's reaping the benefits. I know the season started off up and down for them, but they kind of got themselves into a wee rhythm now, and they lost. I think they won 4 games in a row now, and then they lost a couple back to back to Shamrock Rovers and Dundalk, but which is they drew with Dundalk. Shamrock Rovers and drew with Dundalk, and that's no that's nothing to be ashamed of or be disappointed of. You can be disappointed, but never lose sleep over it, because there's always other games that you can go and win, and this is a difficult fixture for them because of the way that the 2 results had went previously this season. And getting the first goal, I think, was important for Shelbourne in this game, because if Finn Harps had scored first, it could very easily have been it could very easily ate into their psychological mind. But getting the first goal was important, and even though Finn Harps equalised almost right away, I think it was just Shelbourne, the quality eventually has come out on top. And speaking to a few Finn Harps fans today, and they don't see any way out of this. They think they can't even see themselves maybe winning a playoff because of the quality in the first division that's possibly coming through. And look, said Derry read online about people asking for Ollie out, but you realistically have to ask yourself, is bringing in a new manager at this point, what is it going to achieve? Because I don't see them getting 14, even with a new manager. I don't see them getting 14 more points in Drogheda between now and the end of the season. It might rejuvenate them a wee bit for a playoff push or whatever. But I think it's just like keep with what you have. Maybe get a few players in between now and the end of July. Keep Ollie there. See what happens between now and the end of the season, and go again next season, whether it's in the first division or the Premier Division. But it's not looking good for Finn Harps, and like as I said, chat to a few Finn Harps fans today, and it doesn't sound good either within the club.
They've obviously made a couple of signs. Actually, Liam McGinn has come in. Don't know much about him. Australian lad, and Robert Jones, who actually started the game. But as Luke said, feels like you're kind of throwing them in there like as such. Like, you know, is it? And then I don't know.
You look at the goal scoring charts, and Nathan Boyle has 3 goals, and Mihailovic has 3, and Eric McWoods has 3, and that's the top goal scorers. So, and they've 18 goals scored in the league. So they've 9 goals scored between 3 players, and one of them's a centre back. So it's
and And they're conceding goals, JP. I mean, most seasons they don't concede as many goals, and they just seem more brittle. I know they had the game against Pats a couple of weeks ago, but that hasn't really done them any favors in reality, has it? Apart from getting a point, they haven't really. It hasn't given them confidence or anything.
No, it just feels like a Van Harps and all. I'm not blaming Ollie Horgan, but it just feels like it's gone its course now. I think
running out. Yeah, exactly.
And he's probably overachieved the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Where if he'd come up, went down, went up again, down, it would have been better than staying in the division for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Because then he's gone as far as he could. I think was it 8th they finished, or 7th last year, and that was probably his highest.
8, yeah.
It's 8 behind Drogheda, but it was a high points total for 8.
Yeah.
There wasn't a big gap between them and say teams in 4th and 5th. I think that was the point.
It was 40.
They pushed the teams above them as well, like to the end.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a stronger league last year as well. You have to remember. Yeah. Most teams were better, I thought.
Most teams have improved this season, where Van Harps have not improved, and I think that's the difference. And I think I called it. I definitely called it. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the show, but they were probably lucky in the sense that Waterford lost that playoff final last year, because they could have been left adrift this season at the bottom. They're probably blessed that UCD are there that can give them a second chance, because with a playoff final being a one-off, anybody can win it.
Absolutely. So, guys, we finished Drogheda United 1, Dundalk 0 in the big loud derby, and obviously Luke is going to be happy man with this one. Dean Williams in the very first minute, and obviously I was at the game as well, but it caught me completely cold. Obviously, I was vlogging the game as well, and I was too consumed with what was going on around me with the atmosphere, and I really wasn't expecting an early goal. Drogheda, I'm not sure if Dundalk touched the ball. They did, obviously, because he tried to clear it. Andy Boyle tried to clear it and he mishit it. But aside from that, it was actually a good move, because they had the ball out right, and it worked its way out eventually to Evan Weir, who does very well to follow a pass, and then he takes on a player, whips in a decent ball, and Boyle just... It's cold, if I'm honest. I think that's what it is. But Dean Williams was almost like a sniper, and a brilliant finish into the net. And a little surprise it finished 1-0 after that early goal, Luke. But it was a fantastic derby. Mishi, a better one than the last Drogheda one, where they won 1-0 against Dundalk ahead in the game as well. I have to say, I think the performance of both teams was actually better. Dundalk actually nearly equalised immediately. They had their best chance of the game after that. I think it was Macmillan, wasn't it, who headed it just over the bar?
Yeah.
Great opportunity to score. And look, I'll let you take over for now.
Well, where do we start, really? It's just a great win, really, and not even just that. The most pleasing thing I've seen is, like, one of Drogheda's downfalls, I think, this season is not starting the game right. You know what I mean? You could be like that night in Sligo when we were 2-0 down after 3 minutes, and that, you know what I mean? Like, they're the sort of things that stick in your head. But last night, after 53 seconds, you're 1-0 up in the loud derby, and not even just that. The way we scored, they got, like, obviously they got the tip off. Connolly played a terrible pass across, throw in, and then I think Markey wins a foul, and then from then Deegan plays it to Cowan, I think, and then Cowan plays it into Clark, who plays it out then to Evan Weir, who takes over then, you know what I mean, and he actually does really well to get by McCarry, you know, and delivers a great ball in. It's one of them balls. It's a difficult one for the defender, I think, because it's bouncing in, and you know, he has to throw the leg at it, and obviously he probably would have been better off even putting it out for a corner even. But it is a difficult one, and you know, it's easy for us to say, but then Dean Williams is on it with his back to goal. He has no sight of the goal, turns and hits it first time into the top corner. And to be honest with you, I didn't see the goal because I was still scanning tickets, and I'd say there was about 10 or 15 people who walked through because I ran off celebrating. I just forgot myself, to be quite honest, as you would, like. And I think my dad was actually selling programs as well. He ran off the programs in his hand down towards because the Drogheda players had ran over, and I even think the lads, the ultras, had just were putting their display back, and some of them were
I
on
don't
the pitch,
think anyone was ready, Luke, first
throwing it off, and then they started swarming the players. So look, it was a brilliant moment, you know what I mean? And I think Kevin and Darryl will be very, and the rest of the coach and staff will be very pleased with that start, you know what I mean? And you know, I think even doing the interview, I with Kev after the game, he was just and Keith Cowan, they both said we didn't plan for that. You know what I mean? Like they planned just to stay in the game as at the first 10, 15 minutes. You know, get settled and that, and but obviously stay in the game in the right way by pressing them and causing them to make the issues, and that's exactly what they done. You know what I mean? And they probably weren't expecting that themselves. And you know, then for the rest of the game, obviously Dundalk, you know, after we scored, we're probably the better team for about 10 or 15 minutes. But then Drogheda grew into the game even more. Then, you know what I mean? Markey was causing them all sorts of problems. And, you know what I mean? I think that's probably one of the best performances I've seen from Darragh Markey in a Drogheda jersey. He was excellent. And his feet just was brilliant. Like, it was, you couldn't have asked for any more from him. And, you know, even coming towards like the end of the game, like that's probably a second 90 minutes all season. Like, and, you know, he's still running at players and causing them. He was actually lucky at a good shot away as well. I think Shepherd had it covered, but Dundalk will be disappointed as well. You know what I mean? Like, they probably were caught unaware, and you know, obviously they had a good chance with Macmillan from that corner, but after that, like, there wasn't really. They had a few decent balls into the box, but Drogheda were happy enough, you know what I mean, to sit back and let Dundalk, you know what I mean, do that, and you know, put balls into the box, and you know, it reminded me when we played Rovers when we went 1-0 up, like Rovers sort of reverted to a lot of crosses into the box and no real clear cut chances, because even then in the second half, like, you thought maybe Drogheda will sit back and hold on, but they pushed on even, and you know what I mean, had a few chances. Williams had a great chance, slipped 1-on-1 with Shepherd, and I think Shepherd does well, but I think Williams might be a bit disappointed with himself, you know what I mean. He doesn't really misses from that sort of position. And then obviously Darren Nugent, Luke Heaney breaks and Kelly sort of throws the arm across. I don't think it was a foul, but Nugent does well to win the ball then off and has a shot that just skims the post. And then even I think Nugent does well again and has a shot that the keeper sort of spills. I think Shepherd was injured then at that point. That he spilled and it just wouldn't fall for Markey. But look, atmosphere, you know what I mean, 3 points, you couldn't have really asked for any more, to be quite honest. A brilliant win, and you know, it just, even not having Massey at the start of the game for us, you know, he's injured at the minute, so that was a loss going into the game. But to a man from 1 to 11, they all stepped up and they all put in a really good shift. And you know, Colin McCabe as well, who deserves a lot of credit as well. You know, he's got a second clean sheet in 4 games, you know what I mean? So he'll be pleased with that, and you know, it's a thing he's looking at, and adding more clean sheets to his game, and I'm very pleased for him, of course. So yeah, overall, couldn't really ask for any more. And you know, I think there's a lot of questions about seeing a Dundalk fan giving out the way Drogheda celebrated at the end of the game, but that just makes it all even better, to be quite honest. And you know, again, two wins at home to the crowd from up the road, as I was saying last night. It's a great feat to have, you know.
Yeah, I believe that's the first time that's ever happened. Would you believe that Drogheda have beaten Dundalk twice in the league season at United Park, which is some stat. But JP, from Dundalk's point of view, they'll be disappointed with this. I know we're not expecting them to challenge for the title, but there'll be still people at Dundalk, the players would have thought this is a good opportunity, because it was a game in hand with Shamrock Rovers, but they're after wasting that opportunity and getting no points out of the game. But an awful start for them to give Drogheda the lead, because if you give Drogheda the lead at United Park, you know yourself, like, it's very hard to rein Drogheda in. I always feel when you play Drogheda at United Park, you have to score the first goal. If you don't, the crowd, like, they're really good and they really get into it. Even if it's not Dundalk, could be anybody. But Dundalk, they will be very disappointed to have not got the points here.
Yeah, because it wasn't just a game in hand; it was one of 2 games in hand for them. There's a 10-point gap between themselves and Shamrock Rovers, and with 2 games in hand, they had a chance. They slice that they 4, and they've passed up one of those games in hand. And I think what this result does, there's 2 things. It probably makes Shamrock Rovers champions, although Rovers fans and Stephen Bradley and the players will be thinking different. And it probably keeps, I'm not going to say probably, it definitely keeps Drogheda in the Premier Division, because I can't see Van Harps getting, as I said earlier, can't see them getting 14 more points than Drogheda. And I can't see Dundalk or Derry getting 11 or 12 more points than Shamrock Rovers between now and the end of the season. For Drogheda, absolutely fantastic result. As you say, another one for them against Dundalk. They're unbeaten at home against the top 3. So they are. Because they've beat Dundalk twice. They've beat Shamrock Rovers and they've drew with Derry. And that is an
Isn't that the difference, though? Because I was speaking to somebody actually just before the games this week, and they were saying how Harps often reel teams in, but I was kind of saying to them that Yeah, but Drogheda are capable of getting these type results,
Mm.
and that just will always keep them above water. Like,
Yeah.
and when I say above water, they're comfortable at the moment. Of course, they won't want to get comfortable, but they are in a comfortable position.
For Drogheda, it's not about looking back anymore. It's about looking up and thinking, can we catch Shelbourne? Can we catch Bulls? Can we finish 6th or 7th? That's the way they should be looking at it now over the course of the next 14 games. Is how high can we finish? Is like can we reel Shelbourne and can we reel Bohemians in? And really great, really fantastic one for them. When I saw they taking the lead early on, I thought that it would spark Dundalk and maybe Dundalk would and even coming up the end of the game, I was getting the feeling that Dundalk was probably going to nick one near the end and it's going to end the stoppage time in, and I thought, no, Drogheda they're there now. They should get over the line, and they did that, and fair play to them. Because they're a really good team. They have a really good mix again, as said about Shelbourne, having a good mix of youth and experience, and I think Drogheda do as well. And it is a really difficult venue to go to. It always has been, and it always will be. And fair play to them. Like the fantastic result for them.
Yeah, I mean, from the Dots' point of view, though, quickly as well, like they are in a good position. Let's be honest about it. They'll be disappointed because they've only lost 3 games this season, and 2 of them are against Drogheda. So that will be the thing that'll kick them, if you know. But they're very difficult to beat. They don't concede many goals. Even last night, like that mistake from Boyle, that's a rare thing you see in Dundalk, which is a good thing from their point of view, obviously, isn't it?
Aye, it is. Like it's. Sorry, go on ahead there. Look.
No, as well. Like you're right, because you know, I think the way you beat these sort of teams is if you get your one chance, you've got to take it. And you know, Williams, it's a half a chance. Do you know what I mean? It's a half a chance. It's not a gilt edge chance. You know what I mean? It's a half a chance. And when you've got finishers in the team like Dean Williams, and like Kevin has been so vocal about how good he is as a finisher, and I know he has, and even in interviews, you know what I mean, even talking to Kevin himself, he's so vocal about how good a finisher, and even the other lads like in training how good a finisher he is, and that just shows, like, you know what I mean, like it's a half a chance, and he stick it into the top corner. It was great, like, and it sort of caught Dundalk really, like, you know what I mean, and they weren't expecting that at all. Like,
would you agree?
He just kind of swiveled on it, didn't he? Like it wasn't like it wasn't like it failed him, and he could pick his spot. He like literally had to just hit and hope really.
If he hits that wide, JP, you're not really going back over the game saying that was a great chance we missed.
No, exactly, but because he scored it, you're saying it's a fantastic finish. So he always looks like a threat. Like even when they were missing their main striker earlier in the season, Lions, you weren't worried for Drogheda because you knew he was there, and look, the management team are delighted with him because they know how good a finisher he is, and great finish from him.
Luke, would you agree with JP said a second ago, though? I know like Drogheda are going to be keeping a coy and all, but they are 13 points clear of Harps. They're 3 points behind Shelbourne and 4 behind Bowes. They have to say in their own minds, don't they? Let's try and catch them. In their own minds, even if they don't want to say it out loud.
No, look, they're not going to, you know, come out and say, look, we want to do this, we want to do that. But look, they're going to be pleased with the position they're in. You know what I mean? It's one of these ones, like they were going into the start of the season. I think everyone was probably fancying Drogheda to be I don't think they probably thought that Drogheda would have such a gap over Finn Harps. No. I didn't think we'd have this gap over Finn Harps coming in. But look, it's all down to the likes of, as you said, look, it's getting the key results against Dundalk earlier in the season, you know what I mean? That sort of said, like, Jesus, we're a difficult team to beat at home. Like, we can, you know, have teams come here and you know, be scared, Neil. Not like scared, but you know what I mean? They don't want to play there, you know what I mean? And Dundalk,
you don't feel like it's a guaranteed 3 points going there, even if you're a big team. You don't feel like.
But that's the way. No, and that's a good thing. I think, you know, even last season, like there was a few times, like we lost the Rovers twice at home last season. We bet Derry. I think we lost to Dundalk as well twice at home. You know what I mean? And I know we had a great season last year, but at home, even we probably, like, we were getting really good results away from home. Obviously we got some good results at home as well, of course. But like, you know, this season there really seems, and that's down to the crowd. I think, you know what I mean? Like the fans have just been like top class. Like, you know what I mean? Anyone you talk to, like in the town, is just, you know, all talking all about the fans and how good they've been, and they've gotten right behind the team. And you talk to any of the team, they'll tell you exactly, like, it's them, like they drive them on, and you know, it's great having that sort of atmosphere, because, you know, obviously we were going into the season sort of after losing so many players, and that, you know, we really needed the crowd to, you know, get behind these lads and not turn on them. And, you know, I mean, obviously it took a few weeks in that for us to get settled and that, but like, you know, you can see sort of that when we have the crowd behind us, we can be a difficult team to beat. So look, long that may continue, you know what I mean? We've got a decent record against Harps and UCD as well. So obviously we've lost twice to Shell, so when we play them in a few weeks, I'd love to see us beat them, to be quite honest. And even with go on,
no, finish your point.
Even we Bows now next Friday in United Park, or Heading Game Park. So, you know, I think it's a good opportunity to, you know, get one over and get a bit closer to them, hopefully. But that'll still be a tough game. So look, we'll see over the next few weeks, you know.
Yeah, because it's such a tight venue as well. Like when the crowd are the way they were at the start last night, they're right on you. It's like,
yeah,
it's like they're on the pitch themselves, and that's quite possibly could have what caught Dundalk off guard early on. Was they probably didn't expect that kind of atmosphere. They probably thought there'd be a crowd there, they'd be up for it, but they probably didn't expect that kind of atmosphere so early on. And fair play to Drogheda fans, because they really did, like, as I seen a wee bit at the start, they really did like make it hell for Dundalk, like.
Absolutely. Look, guys, we'll leave it there and that bombshell. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for coming on, lads, as well. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit your bell notification button. And let us know what you think of all the games in the comments. Thank you. Brilliant, guys. Well done.